Hey guys, this is Unit 2, Lesson 1. We're going to be working with decimals as they equal into division. So some vocabulary. A decimal, that's just when we have a number that has that decimal place, right? So we have a whole number, and then we have a decimal place, and then there's something that comes after that. Okay, so in this number, the decimal would be underlined here in yellow. In this particular number, our next vocabulary word is the tenths place, and the tenths place value is underlined in red. So I've underlined it in red. We've got the hundredths place value. I've underlined that in green. So the hundredths place value is underlined in green. And then we've got thousandths place value, and I've underlined the thousandths place value in blue. Just to kind of differentiate those, so in case you weren't real familiar with those, you would know what they were. In class, there's the place value chart that you probably want to use to make sure you're keeping track of your place value if you're not sure. So decimals are just another way to express the division of a whole. So like we were working with fractions, and fractions express a part of a whole, decimals also express a portion of a whole. So you guys need your SAB page 333 through 336, and we're going to do some work with decimals. You need to take notes and follow along as I go through the video so that you can do your homework and remembering in class. You're going to have to prove to me that you've watched the video by showing me the work on all these pages that we're going to do together. Okay, so let's start with, oh, sorry about that. Let's start with the discussion of just fractions, okay? So fractions and decimals, fractions are and decimals are special kinds of numbers, right? They tell us a part of a whole. They don't tell us the whole number necessarily. They can be just a piece of the whole instead of being the entire thing. So we'll look through on that, okay? So for example, fraction notation, we use a numerator and denominator to show how far we've divided them apart, right? 1/4, it means that we have 4 pieces and we have one of those 4 pieces, or 5 equal parts, right? We have 3 here, so 3 of those 5 equal parts. But with a decimal, it shows place value to the right side. That's going to look like left on you, to the right side of the ones. It's the tenths place value. So the numbers right after the ones place value, right? You guys know place value as far as tens, hundreds, ones, all of those. Tenths and things come after. We identify them by this THS sound that there is. So in a decimal, we have this sound. So that's how we know that it becomes a decimal place value, okay? And it's divided up into equal parts, equal tenths. So for example, a dime is a tenth of a dollar. So it's represented like this, 1 below the decimal point. So in the tenths place value. A penny is a hundredth of a dollar. Well, it happens to be a 1 in the hundredths place, so it represents that hundredth of a dollar. If we chopped a penny into 10 little pieces, like what this picture is showing, which would be a little bit crazy, you and I both know, but if we did that, we would have a hundredth, because that penny, it now represents a hundredth of one whole dollar, right? One whole dollar is the 1, it's the unit. We have a hundredth of that, so represented here by the 1 in the hundredths place value. Okay, so let's apply some of that. We're just going to say these numbers out loud, and as we say them out loud, it tells us their place value. And I know you guys can say them out loud because we've worked on fractions, and you guys can say fractions out loud. So we're going to say the number, and then we're going to write it down in decimal form, remembering our place value, right? That we've got our tenths, hundredths, and thousandths behind the decimal. So each digit behind is one of those. Give it a shot here. 7 hundredths. So the first digit behind the decimal is the tenths. We don't have any tenths. We have hundredths. We have 7 of them. The next digit behind the decimal is the hundredths, so we have 7 hundredths. 16 hundredths. Okay, that's a little bit more confusing because I need my last digit to end up in the hundredths place value. So it's going to go here. That 1 goes in the tenths place value. So now when I say this number, I say 16 hundredths. Okay, 16 hundredths. 4 tenths. Well, it's in the tenths place value. The tenths place value is 1 digit behind the decimal. 9 tenths. Tenths place value is 1 digit behind the decimal. 9 tenths. Ooh, this is a tricky one. 5 thousandths. So I'm going to put a decimal. I'm going to go to the thousands place value. Okay, this is the tens place value. I don't have any. This is the hundreds place value. I don't have any. The thousands place value, I have 5. So I'm going to put a 5 in the thousands place value. Okay, so now it says 5 thousandths. 54 thousandths. Okay, another tricky one kind of, because I don't have anything in the tens place value. I know I need to end up in the thousandths place value, but my last digit has to end up there, so my 4 has to end up there, which puts my 5 in the hundredths place value. This number would be read as 54 hundredths. So 81 hundredths, we're going to put an 8 in the tenths place value and a 1 in the hundredths, because we say the place value of the last digit that there is in the number. So when we hit the end of the number, then we get to say the place value. So we're going to say the last place value that's in there. So for example, this next one is 409 thousandths. So it needs to be in the thousands place value. So 409. And that 9 just has to end up in the thousands place value. So just by writing that number out, we end up in the thousands place value. I know that was a wonky 9, sorry. 2 tenths. 2 right after the decimal. 3 hundredths. Got to have a 0 and then a 3. 16 thousandths. Got to have a 0 because there's nothing in the tens place value. I need to end up in the thousands place value. There's my thousands place value. So all of the decimal thing is understanding place value and where a number falls on a number line and its place value, what it represents. 67 hundredths. The 6 has to go in the tenths place value, and the 7 has to go in the hundredths place value because I need it to be that last number. Okay, so let's think about the pattern that we see here. Well, the pattern that you guys hopefully are seeing here is that the number you say are whole numbers, but then you say the rightmost place value. So you say the whole number, and then you say the name of the place value, not values, just value, of the rightmost place. So the number at the end of the number, you say its place value, what it equals to. Okay, so let's continue trying this. If you cut a lemon into 10 equal pieces, what decimal number would represent that? Well, tenths, right? 3 tenths. If it's easier for you to start out by going, okay, well that would be 3 tenths, right? And then changing that into a decimal, 3 tenths, then please do so. A bag of pretzels contains 100 pretzels. What decimal would 28 of the pretzels be? Well, that's like 28 over 100, or 28 100ths. So when I say it out loud, 28 hundredths, I'm going to put a 28, and I'm going to go out to my hundredths place value. What number would 5 pretzels represent out of that 100? Well, if 5 is my whole, it becomes my denominator. Or 100 is my whole, it becomes my denominator. And 5 is my numerator. So 5 hundredths. There's no tenths, and there's 5 hundredths. Okay? Let's try one more. A beehive is home to 1,000 bees. If 235 are gathering pollen, what decimal number? So 235 over 1,000. My decimal number would be 235 hundredths. Okay, so I want you guys to give this last one a try. Make sure you can answer it, and we'll see you guys in class.